things. So Chris, hello.
Hey, hi Fee. Thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Hi everyone that's watching.
So it does look like there's not many here at the moment, but this usually happens and people sort of drift in because there's a couple of churches do services on a Friday, which is why I tend to keep it to 9 o'clock because then nobody has to miss anything really. So Phoenix Blue Health Arts, tell us all about it. What do you do?
Well, that's my company, which grew out of something called Phoenix.blu.retreats, which is my other company. Phoenix Blue Retreats was principally to bring my teachers to England and to Wales and places like that. So yeah, it's me teaching, which is principally Tai Chi and Qigong. But I'm interested in all of life. You know, the other thing I do is I'm a musician, or one of the other things, and I'm also a craniosacral therapist, budding craniosacral therapist. So there's a thread to it all. It's, I suppose, music led me. I've always been quite arty, which is why I fancied doing a martial art rather than a sport. I wanted to know what the kind of art aspect was, and the whole idea of turning things into an art, and that it was so I got into kung fu and things in my mid-20s, and I found a lot of what I was looking for, all the kind of mysterious ways of moving other people's bodies and moving your own body and all that, and that's took me into, like it does for many people, you start getting interested in your own body and other people's bodies, and health and healing, and yeah, just it's a way of life really. So it's a good way to look at anything Tai Chi and Qigong, which comes from a philosophy called Taoism. It's not so much a religion. It's one of the big belief systems in China. But the famous yin yang symbol, we all know, that comes from Taoism, and so does Tai Chi and Qigong and the various arts from that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I have to confess a little bit because I used to go to the Mind Body Spirit events years back, and there was a guy talking about, is it the Tai Chi? Something. Yeah, but it's spelled Tao, isn't it? So I've been completely pronouncing it wrong for years.
Oh, it doesn't do us any favors. Yeah, Taoism. It's just what it is. It's a soft T. So it's Tao, and so it's just how these things have traveled over. You know, a Chinese person would sound like they're saying Taoism, and there's anyone that knows about there's various ways to write Chinese words, and it means there's at least 3 spellings for Qigong and things like that. So it's just all a bit complicated, really. Yoga is an easy word.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I know they say the English language is one of the hardest to learn. Oh, there you go. Jason's been saying it wrong as well all this time. So there you go.
You just wouldn't know. You just wouldn't know, and you know, and certainly not pull anyone up on it. But that's it. Taoism, same thing.
Okay. All right. Now you mentioned Tai Chi and Qigong. Now again, I must confess my ignorance because I really don't know what the difference is. I know a little bit about. I've seen you tend to say a little bit more publicly about Tai Chi. I think, you know, mainstream. I would say. Tai
Chi is more well known from essentially from the 70s and all the martial arts movies and all that. And essentially, Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. Qigong, I often like to, I'll just break down the translation. Gong or Kung is the same as from the word Kung Fu.
Right.
Kung Fu Kung Fu just means skill attained through hard work. So if you're a carpenter and you've done it and you're good at it, then you've got Kung Fu in carpentry. So that's the Kung or Gong aspect. And then Qi means energy. So literally, Qi Gong is just energy work or working with your energy.
Right.
So that's all that means. And then Tai Chi is perhaps the most famous way of doing that. But yeah, what it often looks like is, I mean, the recognizable version is kind of quite beautiful looking circular spherical movements. Hence Tai Chi. And Qigong is more, it looks very similar, except the moves are a bit more repetitive, and it can often be done on the spot. You might do one movement 20 times and then another movement 20 times. So it's more like a standard workout, somewhere between a workout and a Tai Chi form. A Tai Chi form itself, although it looks very poetic and graceful, and what's actually going on, it's one way to look at it is it's a list of martial applications. It's like it's almost a book. It's the same way that people would used to in this country used to write. Instead of writing things down, they'd have a song or a poem. So you could say that a Tai Chi form is like a physical poem. And there's a whole science to how it's put together. So it's not just movements strung together in any order they happen to come up. And it doesn't just do one thing. So it'll have a whole load of martial art applications, but at the same time, the movements will all be put in a very specific order to amount to a complete balancing of your physical and your energy system. So yeah, that's kind of so the Tai Chi forms tends to be one move after another. Qigong forms tend to be a series of about 6 to 7 exercises repeated. That's the famous side of it that it looks like. The other thing is, I mean, I'm doing Qigong now to some extent, and you can do Qigong completely still as well. But you know, it's to do with your mental state, how you're breathing. Just anything that interfaces consciously with the human experience, you know.
Yeah, as I said, I was having a look on your page earlier, and I noticed something about, because you were talking about an upcoming sort of Tai Chi workshop that you've got going on. Well, then I read something, and you do like a precursor to that, to do with breathing and how fluids move around your body. Have I sort of? Do you mind explaining that a little bit more? Because I'm not entirely sure I've understood it.
Well, absolutely. So, like, the main Tai Chi classes and Qigong classes, what they look like in the main is the teacher stands at the front and moves through a series of movements, and everyone does the best to copy them, which is an essential element of it. But it's also that's choreography. That's an aspect of it has to be done. But even before that, it's like Tai Chi is about how you do things, not just whether you do them. So it's like, what's your mental state? What's the state of your breathing? What's the state of your internal state? What's going on in your organs and whether. So I like to spin it round and show people a bit of what we're trying to achieve, and then you show them the movement, and then they go, "Oh, I get why you're doing the movement like that now."
Right.
So some of the things I mentioned in that, I mentioned breathing, and I also mentioned openings and closings. Openings and breathing is a form of openings and closings. You know, basically we've got, if we look at nature, everything, whether it's the plants and things in the seasons, or whether it's the ocean, or whether it's people, if we look close enough, everything's getting bigger and it's getting smaller, and it's getting bigger, it's getting smaller. That obviously is when we breathe, that happens, but it also happens at a level of the joints in the hands, for example. So you can expand space between the joints. It also happens within cavities in the body. cavities might, you know, these deep internal cavities. There's also things like your armpit is a cavity. Your mouth is a cavity, of course. So there's actually spaces between the body, in the body, and we want them. Optimum health means that they open and close in a very even and strong, powerful, smooth way. Dis-ease or disharmony could look like something gets stuck in the open, or it closes down and gets stuck there. So it's just about regulating those natural rhythms, paying attention to them. And one of the other things I mentioned is fluids within the body. Tai Chi takes fluids very seriously, and it looks to them. So obviously the main one is blood. So if you take the fluid, if you take the fact that we're a big bag of fluid, and then you get the fact that we open and close, you start to see that what we are is kind of one of the things we are is a pneumatic pump. And so Tai Chi, I know I'm getting very technical here, but so one way to look at it.
You're explaining it perfectly. I'm getting this. So yeah.
Well, okay.
I'm understanding this. Yeah.
Well, okay. So here's something a bit more relatable. Cardiovascular exercise, which we do a lot of in the West, that has the main function of that, to get your heart beating, to tire yourself out, really get that heart pumping, is to move a lot of blood and a lot of other fluids powerfully around the whole body. That's really what you're trying to do. That's the main health benefit, apart from also exercising the heart. With Tai Chi, you can use the whole body as a pump to move the fluid around the body. And we can use circular movement, which means we can get it towards the extremities and everything without necessarily speeding up. So at that kind of slow pace it was moving at then, we can get a workout around the body which is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than cardiovascular, and it's not putting undue strain on the heart for people that maybe can't do that. The other thing, it then, once we practice that starts to happen in everyday life even more. We can take the state that we achieve in Tai Chi and we can then go into our day and keep it going. So it's a bit more holistic like that. So yeah, one way it's around creating balance, and we're looking at, in a big way, we're looking at fluid in the body moving well. So that's blood. There's also lymph. There's also synovial fluid, which is the fluid between the joints, and cerebrospinal fluid and all this kind of thing. It's, when your fluids don't flow well, you feel pretty crap. And many times when you don't feel good, that's one of the things that happens. So it makes you more conscious. Like I had a nasty cold a few weeks ago, and yeah, I was able to see it through that lens that what happened was a lot of the fluid starts to stagnate or get stuck in a certain place, like your head. You just feel sluggish. So heart problems often cause that, and also things like thyroid problems cause things like that, and it's just no fun. So Tai Chi and Qigong can do something about that.
Okay, so you mentioned thyroid then and heart problems. So obviously, I'm assuming Tai Chi, Qigong, whichever, are good for both of those. Can it help with most health conditions, or would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're looking for yes, you're looking to increase vitality in the system, and then many things just fall away. So yeah, and it can literally be done. It's also very very flexible in how it can be achieved, because you can, all that opening and closing and moving that I was talking about, you can do it to its kind of high octane state where people can use it to throw people across the room and it looks like magic and it looks effortless. You could also do it lying in a hospital bed at an almost invisible level. So the point is, if you've got, you can do it for where you are. If you're feeling very delicate, you don't one thing we never do in Tai Chi is we never push. We never push or strain. We always try and stay within about 70% of what we feel like we could do. And so if we were to have the flu, for example, that might come down to 50%, 40%. But the point is, we're doing something. So one thing that we do in a lot of the exercise we do in the West, we put out a lot of effort. Let's say someone goes to weights, or they run on a machine, or they go, you know, running in nature or anything like that. And there's a collapse afterwards. We put out a lot of effort, and then we kind of, and we also, that follows into our working days. We tend to put everything out achieving something, and then collapse and rest. Where if it's done slightly skillfully, you can end up immediately after with more energy than you started with, and that's done by not overstepping the mark. And I mean, this is what everything in Tai Chi is done, is from observing first babies and also animals. So you know, if you watch a baby, that's exactly how they have all that energy to do all that all day, because they're moving in a circular and relaxed way. And you know, movement can charge the body up as well as exhaust it. It just depends how we do that movement and what's appropriate at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I get that, because I know it's a different thing altogether. But I know if I go swimming, I always feel great after I've been. I used to go to the gym, like you say, exactly as you've just said, and you'd come out and you'd think, oh, you know, obviously I'm not going back there again. I don't like that. It hurts.
Exactly. I wasn't a fan of the gym myself, and I mean, it's just who I am, you know. But yeah, so there's a lot of effort, and it's also very stop-start, that you heave yourself off one machine and then you go and do the next one. Whereas swimming, it's continuous, and it's spherical movement by the very nature, because it's the only way you can move in water. So yeah, I mean, Tai Chi sometimes gets called swimming in the air, and I would, if someone was suffering somewhat and they didn't have time to learn any Tai Chi or Qigong, if it's appropriate, I would just say, yeah, just swim, or even just walk in water. It's one of the, you don't, also just walking, because again, that's considered. So the best exercises for me are swimming, walking, jogging or running if you're built for it, but I wasn't, and didn't really enjoy that, because of the way my knees are aligned, or were aligned. So I'd just get a lot of shot going into my knees. And maybe perhaps riding a bike to some extent as well, because it's circular. What Tai Chi is effectively doing, it's somewhere between riding a bike and swimming. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you've probably answered this already, but Sharon is asking, could she do it because she has back problems?
Yes, she should do it. I don't have the word should, so I'll edit myself there. She could do it. She could do it for her back problem, which is one of the things I did. Yeah. Again, there's absolutely no reason that anyone couldn't do it with any particular back issue. There's a version of it you can do, like I say, even if you lay in a hospital bed. Then it would depend on how the back issue that you're trying to fix would depend on how you are doing, how you would do the exercise. I mean, you might have a lower back problem, you might have a mid back problem, or you might have an upper back problem. And so where we will position the arms when we're doing a particular move would open up that. Often also takes it, back problems, as well as being stress related, they're often related to the legs and the hips. So it gives us a chance to move very mindfully and kind of see where the ouch is happening, where the issue happens. By doing it so slowly and mindfully, you're able to go towards it and back off and go, oh, that's the issue, so it's the way I'm moving, or something's tight. And you know, the relaxation can do a lot, because we get in an unvirtuous cycle. We get pain and then we tense up because we don't want pain, and then we get more pain and we tense up, and everything tightens up and comes up. What we want to do is open up and let everything release. And creating a space in a vertebrae could be as thin as a piece of paper, and that much would create a life without pain. And without that amount of space in that vertebrae would be, you know, agony. So it's creating space in it and just moving in a soft and spherical way, and then just do it, and then also just tuning into, like I say, doing it so slowly and gently that you can actually make sure you're not going beyond your limits and exhausting yourself. Also, it makes you self-responsible, because if a teacher tells you to do something in a certain way, and either they don't know what they're doing or you misheard it, if you're getting pain off that movement and you carry on doing it, then from my perspective, you're an idiot. You know, if someone tells you to do something and it hurts you, then don't do the thing. So, well, that might be that the person told you to do it, advised that you do it gently, and your nature is to always push 110%. So sometimes, again, it's not what you're doing, but it's how you're doing it. And it shows it starts to show those patterns back to you. And you start to ask the question, well, if not this, what would be an acceptable movement? And your body can actually, you know, your body will speak to you. If you quiet down enough and you're nice enough to it, it will start to say, this is good, this ain't so good, more of this please, less of that. So yeah, I had like a really tight lower back kind of from birth, and it only got worse, and all the stress went in there, and that's where it holds a lot of stress. And over a slow process, it's loosened up. And of course, your kidneys are in your back, in your lower to mid back. At times like now, when there's a lot of fear going around, you know, you want to keep if you want to keep an eye on your kidneys, you don't want them freezing up. So a very simple exercise, the camera is frozen, so I can't see myself, but you just get the backs of your fists, and I don't know if you can see me, but you just make circles with the teeth. You just make the circles.
Yeah, we can see that.
And you do that about 30 times, maybe while the kettle's boiling in the morning. And all you're doing is generating heat, and it'll just warm your kidneys up a little bit. You might find it's a bit easier to go for a pee or anything. And so, health tip, do that once a day, and also generally keep that mid area of yourself warm, even if it's having a little scarf around it or anything. Keep your kidneys warm in the winter, because your kidneys are related to how well fluid circulates in your body.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking if anybody else is asking anything rather than me. Oh, there you go. You've got a fan of that already. Marcy's going to start doing that. A couple of people are going to ask about backs, interestingly, and I do know. Obviously, I know quite a few of the people, especially that are on here tonight, and we do seem to have rather a collection, myself included, of people with knackered backs. So it is really interesting the fact that you're saying, you know, it's not restrictive to whether you can actually give it a go or not.
Absolutely not. I mean, the thing is, it's Tai Chi ends up like a real supercharged exercise for the whole body, but that's why I like to teach the principles of it, so that you can just at least apply the principle, like I say, circular movement in a way that generates warmth from the back, and that's better than nothing. And also being mindful while you do it. That's another thing about Tai Chi. If you're somewhere else while you're doing it, if you kind of moving and you're just like, shall I go and get the shopping after? Then you're not really doing it. So if you're not in the body, you're not present to what's going on, which is again how it does the martial art thing. It ends up you're trying to get very few gaps in your consciousness. So that's what then, but actually, that's what actually promotes speed, makes a person look very fast because they're just present.
Right.
So again, even if you were doing the circles in the back, you would try and do it mindfully and just be aware of all the sensations. Like, just like, how does it feel? Does it feel nice? One of my teachers uses the phrase of, the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So if you do the back, you could go, it could be too hard or too fast, or it could be too light and slow and not really doing anything. And then, of course, we've got just right.
Yeah.
And just right for you on a given day. And to the next day, it might need to be a little bit faster or a little bit slower because we're not robots.
Yeah, I guess it's like you say, and a couple of people say it's about listening to your body, isn't it? At the end of the day, and I think a lot of Western exercise type principles, for want of a better way of putting it, are aimed at you need to be bigger, you need to be stronger, you need to be faster, aren't they? And unless you're actually shedding the pounds and building muscle, it's a waste of time. You might as well just go, I can't be bothered doing anything, because I'm not seeing. But the mindfulness is something I'm very big on anyway. So for you saying it like that, it all makes. And I kind of like the idea, and you've explained it again tonight. And I read it, but having heard you say it, it's sort of sunk in even more. I like the fact that you're teaching what it's doing.
Yeah, that's my particular.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, because if you know what it's doing and you can see the benefit, all right, you're not seeing the six pack, but if you know that moving your back in a certain way is going to give that gap and it's going to help, then
well,
it makes it a little bit more. Oh, actually, I might give it a go. Then I might give it a try.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It is a complete turnaround. I mean, for all of us without six packs. They ain't the healthiest thing for you because what is underneath
I don't think we've got a six pack in the membership, to be honest with you, Chris.
Well, what's underneath those abdominal muscles is your internal organs. So if you squish them in by generating a six pack and having a flat washboard stomach, that means that you are, you're basically constricting your organs. So people that do Tai Chi and tend to have, like, again, if you look at a baby, what's a baby's belly look like? That tends to look like what a Tai Chi person's body looks like because they've allowed room for their organs. They've allowed their organs to fill the space they naturally. Because your organs, again, when we breathe, what happens in a healthy system, in an animal or anything like that, or a healthy human or a baby, is that as well as getting the oxygen in and out, when we breathe, we are causing healthy internal pressures on the organs. So they're getting a gentle massage. That is what we want. A lot of really nasty health problems come from what's called adhesions, which is when two organs and the fascia between them kind of stick and don't slide like they should. So everything in our belly should be nice and squishy and wet inside and warm and just feel, like alive.
Yeah.
There's a phrase in Tai Chi that's like everything you're doing is either. I don't want to scare people, but it's in everything that you do. Almost every thought that you have, or whatever, you're either going towards life or you're going towards death. And so that's what Tai Chi tries to make it so that everything that you're doing in that time is going towards life. And then makes you present so that you start to know when you are going towards death. Which we all, that's a scary way to put it. We all know that. So we all know that, and that can be either way. If you're doing too much, that's going towards death. But at the same point, if you're just doing nothing and you're just stagnating, we all know it comes to that time. I've got to get up, I've got to do a little something now. And sometimes it's just the small beginnings can just generate the littlest bit of life that then you can build on. And so it's yeah, you know, it's like I say, it's something I'm very passionate about. And you never, well, I personally never really stop doing it and thinking about it and feeling into my body. I mean, the quite strange thing that now feels normal to me, well, it didn't used to, and I never thought I'd be able to do it. But I mean, I can feel my liver like I can feel my hand. I can feel exactly what my liver's doing. I can feel my kidneys. I can feel my spleen. I can feel my heart. I can feel my lungs. And at first I was like, "Ew, are we supposed to do that?" And then it's so you bring an awareness to the outside of the body, and then over time it starts to penetrate in. And these are just skills that we all had, but we lost because we told them. So that means if an organ starts to feel funny, you can go, you know, like for example, halfway through the whole thing we're going through at the minute, I just meant in my head I didn't think I was particularly scared or worried. I had a perspective on it, but subconsciously is a different thing. And I was laying on this couch one night and I thought something's not right, and I just checked into my mid back and my lower back, and I found that everything was just holding.
No.
So all it really took is that mindfulness, and then it stops. And I kind of did a big, and I just realized I'd just been holding my adrenals and my kidneys had just been holding. So that's something we just have to be careful of at the minute, that fight or flight, or even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's affecting people without them really knowing it a lot of the time, isn't it? I'm sorry if you wondered why I was laughing before. It's all right. We've got what Dawn has said. John, that's a partner, used to say that a belly was like a cherub's. We've got somebody saying the 6-pack is in the fridge. And then Sharon said, I've got a 6-pack. They call Walker's salt and vinegar. So, yeah, that's what I was laughing at. I do forgive me. They do this. They put these things on and then I can't help but laugh. So, yeah, there's a lot of interest. So, so we've done the difference. We've already done that. The benefits you've explained wonderfully well. Now, one other thing. Now, I know you said it can be done in a hospital bed. Okay. And around here, when you go in the library or the council offices, there's things offering chair yoga for people that, that haven't got the physical mobility. I'm assuming I know the answer to this before I ask it is, can you do Tai Chi sat down if somebody needed to?
Absolutely. And one of the worst, absolutely you can. The chairs are no good for us, right? The worst reason, in the East and stuff, a lot of people crouch instead of sitting on a chair. The worst thing about sitting down in a chair is when your legs go to sleep. Your mind comes out of your legs. We have a phrase in Tai Chi that's like, the mind leads the chi and the chi leads the blood. So basically, if you put your mind in your legs, your energy will go to your legs, and then blood will go to your legs. Now, one of the ways of putting your mind in your legs is sensation. So if you waggle your toes for 5 minutes, blood's gonna work its way around there. At a more subtle level, you don't even need to do that. You can actually direct the blood just with your mind, but that comes later on. But yeah, that's the main thing. It's keeping your. So a couple of if you do have issues with your legs falling to sleep and things, there's a couple of things you can get a little squash ball and just roll it under your foot just to keep something to do. And another one that actually is a really good one, you just get a tea towel or something, and with your toes, you just keep trying to pick the tea towel up. You're just trying to grip it with your toes. And not only is it just keeping your mind and giving you something to keep your feet from just falling asleep as if you stop at your waist. But it'll also bring the dexterity back into your toes, because we lose a lot of dexterity. or that kind of thing. There's no reason why you can't do that with your toes. It's just that we keep them trapped up in shoes, so we slowly lose that. The thing in Tai Chi, one of the phrases is the arms teach the legs, but the legs power the arms. So a movement in the leg is worth 10 of them in the arms. Our legs are very, very powerful, and so moving the leg will generate a force down the arm. So the legs are really important. Essentially, you just got to keep them alive and present. And so one of the ways to do that is stood up and shifting weight and things. But if you can't do it, you just look at the next available way to do it. So absolutely.
So basically, it sounds from what you're saying that you can adapt it whatever somebody's restrictions. Right, I know they did a little taster, and I think it was the last Mind Body Spirit thing, at the Buddhist monastery, Gorton Monastery. Sorry, not Buddhist, Gorton Monastery.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely lovely, isn't it? Especially since I remember they took all the angels and the saints out, and I can remember them in like porter cabins for a couple of months, and then it was like it's all back visible again now. But one of the things he had us doing, I've got, and I'll use myself as an example because I don't mind, because most people on here know, I'm waiting for surgery on my shoulder. I've got, following an accident, I got whiplash and I've got tendon damage in my shoulder. And when we went in this taster thing, he had everybody moving their arms, and I'm like, well, I can't do this. It's, and I was right at the front of everybody. So, you sort of make yourself try and do a bit more than you probably would normally. And I come out and I was like, oh my God, I really didn't think Tai Chi had hurt. But I think it comes back to what you said. It's about, if I'd listened to my body and my body had gone, don't even go there lifting that arm up, lady, then it wouldn't have hurt, would it? But obviously, now you've said the way you've said it is, obviously there'll be ways around moving that without causing holy hell in it, type of thing.
Yeah, that's it. I would encourage. I'm sure I could help with that. Very small movements. You can also have the teacher just actually grab the joint and grab the elbow and move it through tiny little circles, and that can make all the difference in terms of getting whatever's holding to release. There's the other thing to be said is that there's two kinds of pain. There's the kind of sharp, ouch, do not do that pain. That's to be listened to.
Yeah, and that's the shoulder.
That's the one, right? Then there's there's also another kind of thing that can happen, which when you articulate something that's not been moved for a long time, it's a kind of deeper, achy, kind of groany pain. And that's actually can be a good thing, because it's not too happy. It's like waking up a grumpy old, man. He's like, So again, you get to distinguish between if it's good pain and it's like, oh, that's really working it, but then you still take it slow, but you're like, this is going in the right direction. Whereas if it's bad pain, and I mean, I could explain that more, but I think we all know there's a difference, when we're all stiff and we're starting to move again after a flu or something, that's good pain. When it's that sharp, if that's saying don't do it like that. But yeah, again, it's circular movement. Shoulder things are often not. If we can get the neck to release and we can get the nerves and the emotional state to release, then a few circular movements can really help the shoulder out. So I'll definitely have a look at you, Pete. I'd be happy to.
Okay, well, I'm quite happy to give it a go. To be fair, the accident happened nearly 4 years ago, and they've gone through absolutely every possible physio, all sorts of stuff. The shoulders, like the surgery on the shoulders, like the last ditch attempt at getting it right. But I'm not really happy about having it, if I'm honest. So I reckon I might come and see if you can work miracles on it and Save me going under the knife.
No one's saying, yeah, I'm not saying never, never, never to surgery. But there is other things to try before that. And what was the accident, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't mind talking about it?
Some very clever little man decided to rear-end my van at traffic lights, red lights. Very briefly, he was in a little tiny van. I was in a big Peugeot Boxer minibus, and he managed to shove me forward. He hit me that hard.
So he hit you in the back?
It hit me at the back, yeah. Wrote the van off.
So you'll be dealing with shock, which will affect your kidneys, and you'll also be dealing. It sounds like you're dealing with a bit of anger.
Oh, most definitely, I was angry. I'm more angry now because he's just sent me a load of papers and he's got my address, so I'm really not happy.
Oh my God! Well, no, literally, what we'll do, we'll try and in Tai Chi, what we're taught to do is that if you do get a car crash, is a great example that you have a good opportunity that is fast declining to get the shock out, to discharge the shock and feel the shock and release the shock. And there's there's a phrase that we have that's like, 3 minutes is best. If not 3 minutes, then 3 hours after. If not 3 hours after, then 3 days after, onward. But the same with the anger. If you're holding that, oh, I was shocked and I'm angry about it, that can be a big component to releasing the injury itself. So that's one of the places we go. If you release everything around the injury, which is, the shock, the fear of it happening again, the fear of it getting, and sometimes it's a bit like pulling a thorn out of a lion's foot. It's like you've got to do a lot of other things, and then at the end it can blink, and it's not as big the shoulder itself is maybe not as big a problem as it may need, but there's a lot compounding onto it and holding that in. So I think looking at the whole person, I mean, it's and then if you still drive, I don't drive myself. Then if you still drive, then every time you're at lights or whatever, there's part of you that's like wants to know if it's gonna happen again.
So there was for a long time. I think that's probably past that. The thing that I find hardest, and this is still a bit of an anger about it, is I used to be able to do 6-hour drives, not a problem. Now I do over an hour, and I'm like, I'm going to have to stop for a bit, and I think that's where my anger is. It's because it's impacted on my freedom, I suppose. So, well, there is still anger there. I'll hold my hands up to that, but I'll definitely have to speak to you. You've told me about some things you've got coming up when you message me, so I'm going to look at them after.
I mean, the first thing I do when it's okay with a person, if there's a particular, rather than getting people to do movements, but considering that I've got quite a bit of experience now, I've been doing this for like, I guess, 12 years, another aspect of it is you're able to feel into other people's bodies as well as your own. So the first thing I'd do is just very, very lightly, I'd have a play with articulating your own. And that would tell me a lot. And then I would hopefully just show you, rather than show you across the room, I would show you, once I found what released it and caused less pain, I would physically show you by moving it how you would an exercise to move in a particular way.
Is that what you were doing on the pictures on your site when you were? There was a few of you stood round somebody as if you were moving things. Is that that kind of
things, absolutely things like that, and you can feel through into someone's body just as well as yourself, and just feel what's going on, and just create that space. I mean, one way to do it, one of my teachers, Aaron, he actually gave me a book when he was teaching me about this stuff, and I was surprised to find out it was a book about hostage negotiation called Getting Past No. So that's how we approach it. We don't go, right, Fee, give us your arm, I'm going to fix it. That arm doesn't want you to do that. So we come in and we take our time and we say,
right,
is this okay? Is this okay? And if it says no, it's like, well, what would this be okay? Or would this be? And it's a conversation with the body, because the body's trying to say, do not turn in that direction. Don't make me do it. But then if you can show, well, what about this? And oh, that's fine, do that. And you know, the body wants to heal. So.
Yeah, doubtlessly. Right, Sharon's just asked, but again, I think in some ways you have covered it. She said, would it help with depression and anxiety?
Yes, it helped me. I've had both. You know, I still have scares. I mean, you've got a circle, really. Life is, when we're balanced, we're going around a circle. When we tend towards the bottom and things start to slow down at the bottom, like that, we tend, that's depression. And and the other thing, anxiety, is like the nature of a spiral. Things spiral up and all of a sudden you can't get back down from that. So it's, that's exactly what it is. It's finding what the cues are. And of course, many of us yo-yo from one to the other, which is like a pendulum, isn't it? So it's over time you make the lows a bit lower. I mean, here's another thing that one of my teachers said. It's a famous Taoist phrase, actually, but this goes more towards kind of bipolar and manic depression, I think. But that's only, you know, the same thing to a great example. If you don't want to feel too bad, then don't feel too good. You see what I mean? Like, another way that they put it is, whatever you're always, anything that you meet in this life, at some point you're going to meet its exact opposite. So you're going to like, so it can be things like that. And also, I mean, anxiety is, with a negative emotional tone, it's anxiety. And with a positive emotional tone, it's excitement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like what a kid feels on Christmas Eve in the stomach and everything isn't, it's essentially anxiety with a positive twist on it. Because something's going to happen and you don't know what it is. But you're pretty sure it's going to be a nice thing. Whereas anxiety is, you know, something's going to happen, you don't know what it is, you're pretty sure it's going to be a bad thing. Also, Tai Chi and I really like polyvagal theory and things like that as well. It helps you realize that state becomes, the state of ourselves comes before the story. We feel a particular way, and then we make up a story to make sense of that particular way. So it can help us. It can help us loosen the attachment to, well, I feel like this because this happened and this happened and this happened when I was 20 and this happened when, to a certain extent, well, no, you just feel like that because, you know, so although there will be a narrative leading up to it, but we don't have to hold on to the narrative. Another one of my teachers' many silly phrases was, if you're on a torture table, you're being tortured, do you want to know exactly how you got there and the exact methods of how you're being tortured, or do you want to get off the table? Do you see what I mean? So sometimes it is, again, that's just letting, it's just letting it go, which would go back to your shoulder. It's like when you do find that anger is in there in a very tangible way, and you kind of like, no, it is, I'm holding anger to that moment. You just,
well, it was a man. Can I just add, it was a man. It wasn't a woman driver. It was a man. Well, a boy, we'll call him. You want a man?
Again, it's like, yeah. So you find that you've got anger. You know, there's that phrase that, you know, anger is your punishment for someone else's mistake. So but then there's also, again, coming back to feeling into your body. I mean, you can hit a pillow or you can scream, but there's two things to notice. One is releasing the anger, which is good, and another is charging up the anger, which is bad. You know, sometimes we we try and release our anger, and we only end up more angry. We're actually fueling it. So it's working out whether you need to express it or you just need to let it pop like a bubble and just get over it. You know, and it could be both. It could be both. You might need to, and you know, just let that go. Because once it's gone, that might be it. But at the same time, it could just be a negative cycle that's doing no one any favors. And then it's just a matter of releasing, which we can do through feeling the actual thing and just using breath and stuff to stay present to it. Some things just need to be felt once, and then they're gone. You know, the body just needs it needs to just complete the story, and it's very easy to disassociate in a moment like that because the body does it for a good reason, to protect you at that time. But then that energy ends up stuck in the system until and then it's a bit like, going back to the shock thing, it's a bit like wet cement. So if you can get it out of, I mean, I remember falling over with my teacher, Aaron. You know, I was doing some martial arts and it went a bit wrong. And my reaction was, and I went down on my back hard, and my reaction was to a little bit embarrassed, shocked. And my reaction was to jump up and carry on as if nothing was. And he kind of caught me and said, no, lie down and just lay there. So that's a good thing as well, to just, if obviously if you're in the middle of the road and there's a traffic, you've got to get out of it. But the next available chance you get, you just sit and get present and just kind of let everything, just process it and just go, wow, that was a shock. And because it's a lot more value to do that than carry on with your day and try and pretend, think you know, like really give it its moment and kind of you know, move when you feel that that's complete, you know.
I mean, it's very interesting stuff. Right, I'm gonna move. Because you know what, we said half an hour, didn't we? And I knew once we got chatting, it's fine. It's everybody's interested. Lots of people commenting. So
thanks, Fiona. Come again.
Can I ask you a couple of questions about what you're actually doing in terms of workshops, classes? Are you able to do them at the moment with the current lockdown hoo-ha?
I am.
Where are you based, Chris? Whereabouts are you based? Sorry, I didn't.
My new studio is in Gatley, which is South Manchester, kind of between East Didsbury and Manchester Airport. So I've got a studio there where I'm able to do small classes. Last week we had a workshop with me and 5 people, so I'm limiting the numbers to me and 6 people at the minute. We've got a workshop on, which is like an intro to Tai Chi, this Sunday. There's one,
okay.
So that's the 11th, I think. Then we've got one on the Thursday night, and then the next 2 weekends, the Saturday and Sunday of the next weekend, I'm doing self-care for healers and therapists, and also anyone.
I was reading about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, it's just, for me, it's all one big picture, but it gives me a jumping off point. Like, I did have some people come in the class the other week, and it just so happened there was 2 people that were both, and there's only 3 of us there, and there's 2 people both suffering with ME and chronic fatigue. So it again gave me that gives me the framework to go, right, well, let's go straight to the part of Tai Chi and Qigong that can help with that. And the same time, self-healers and things, it's all about, they're often overwhelmed, too busy, or to pick up people's energy. So we could go specifically to that. So yeah, I've got the place in Gatley, and long term I'm there. Got those workshops on this Sunday and next Thursday and the weekend after. I intend to do many, and I am experiencing a slight back and forward with people signing up, and just people don't know what they can. You know, one week they're full, and the next week nothing, and the next week they're full again. So people, as far as I can tell, we've got the track and trace thing up there. We air the place well. As of as of now, because it's education rather than a fitness class, we're completely allowed.
Right.
I get that people keep being unsure, and if on Monday it was a further lockdown, then that might change things. So I'm just riding that storm out. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you agree. We all need to get back to what we can do sensibly.
It's just fee. It's never been Fiona. It's just fee.
Oh, it's just fee. Oh, right. Okay. Now I know. Right.
It's all right. Sharon said, do you do Warrington at all?
I have taught in Warrington. Just once I did a workshop. I'm happy to. I did it at a place called Be Your Own Kind of Beautiful, which you might know. I'm happy to go anywhere with a small group. But I know I was in Manchester kind of hiring spaces here and there, and now I've just got my own space in Gatley, but it means I've got a permanent base. But I'm happy to go absolutely anywhere else where it's workshop. And that's why sometimes I'll teach the 2.5 hour workshop, because I think once people have made it out of the house and made the effort to go, and considering the way I teach, and we can see how much I can talk, once we're all in one place, we might as well get quite a bit done. So that's probably my favourite format, like the 2.5 hour workshop. But I've also done weekends, I've also done full weeks, and I've obviously done classes and courses. What I hope to be doing as well, as soon as I get back to normal life, I'll do like 1 hour, 15 minute that'll roll over like 8 weeks, and that's the chance to go.
Right.
I want to teach you this particular form in its entirety, and so that's when as people get more interested, that's when it gets down to those because I teach about 4 Qigong forms, and I teach a short Tai Chi form as well, and then there's all the other bits, the breathing and the mind.
Okay. So right, just hypothetically, say somebody that said, "Oh, I quite fancy giving that a go, Chris." What do you suggest to start with? One of these weekends like you've got coming up, or
everything. Like people always ask, is it okay for beginners? And it's really most people that come. There's only a few thousand people in the country that wouldn't class a beginner, so they're all at entry level where everyone can get on. And
right.
And I encourage people to come to the same workshop again, because I'll never teach it quite the same. And I always just like it. It's a bit like a roundabout, and you just get on. If you're interested, you just get on where you get on. And then over a year or two, you'll have done one pass at the system, roughly. You'll know a bit of everything that's in it, and an idea where it goes. And then if you're more committed and still interested, you just take another pass at the system. So it's just any and everything is always the main thing that goes on in these things. I just get to meet great people and tell them a bit about what it can do. And that's the other thing about Tai Chi and Qigong, as well as it's great to know all these forms and be able to practice it. Often people in a workshop will hear 1 or 2 things that will change their life, and that one went in. And I encourage that. You won't remember everything, but some things will stick in. You'll try it and it'll stay with you.
What I found really interesting as well, because I know we'll have to wrap up in a minute, but I've always thought, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, because you hear about Tai Chi, and I've always thought it's been around about purely and simply directing universal energy. That was my understanding of Tai Chi. Okay. But you've just explained it in a much more personal way, if you like. I mean, obviously, knowing what I do, energy is, perfectly tangible to me. I know, I get it. But a lot of people don't. And I think the idea of somebody just drawing in energy, I mean, Reiki, again, we're talking energy, aren't we? And all that kind of thing. But people that have not experienced energy in that way where you can physically feel it, it's all it could all be a little bit, they're going to draw this energy and whatever. But because you've explained it in a way, the effect it's having on the different parts of the body and the fluids and all that kind of thing, I just think you've made it sound a lot more a lot more beneficial, if I'm completely honest, you know, to how it could help people personally on a physical level.
Yes, the thing in Taoism, they have all that. Believe me, it goes right out there. But they start from where we are, which is in the physical, and that's also quite good for just grounding. Even people that can feel all the Reiki energy and things, sometimes what they're lacking is that physical grounding, that earthing of the circuit.
Yeah.
So it starts in physical movement and mindfulness, and that goes through more subtle types of physicality, which again gets into fluids and nerve flow. And then the next level is the level of chi, etheric energy, the space around our body, the life force that moves around our energy, moves around our body. And then further up the spectrum, we get into emotional energy. And further up the spectrum, we get into mental energy, and then psychic energy, karmic energy. And so it really does get more and more and more refined. It's a matter of how much you can feel. But we start with the earth that we're on. So yeah, it's quite good for it. Gives you that because it shows you the whole octave, and then you can see where something is, and also have an understanding of if someone's got an issue. Is it predominantly an emotional or mental or energetic or physical issue? Where does the main emphasis need to be? Because some things you try and treat physically, and no amount of physical work will do it because it's an emotional issue. And also, if you try and fix an emotional issue by doing movements with your arms without connecting into that, then again, it won't necessarily have. So it just brings out that full spectrum. Again, I like to think about it like a piano keyboard, with the physical bit being like the bottom 8 notes, maybe, and then the keyboard as well.
Yeah, cool. Give me 1 second. We'll just check there's no questions I've missed, because they don't all come up on the laptop, so I have to just have a quick flick through on my phone as well. I don't think there is, because everybody's just clearly been listening. Normally, they're all chatting amongst themselves, but there's hardly been any of that tonight. So you've obviously kept their interest.
I hope
so. Yeah, Sharon's asking. I presume she means for the introductory that you've just mentioned. How much is it to do the introductory class?
The thing I'm doing this weekend is £25. Each of the long workshops, the afternoon workshops, is £25.
Okay, and what sort of times do they run from? Are they?
Well, at the minute, I mean, like I say, I'm only teaching small groups, so if you get together 4 or 5 people, I'll do a workshop on anything, wherever. But yeah, the one this weekend is 2:30 till 5 o'clock. And then in the evenings, I'm currently doing 6 till 8:30, and then next week I'm stuff at 2:30 till 5 o'clock again. I'm not that much of a morning person, but I'm still feeling out the demand, and very much so. Time I'd like to fill is weekdays, you know, because often we assume everyone's just busy in the weekday, but the times have changed, and so
absolutely, and I guess it's good to have people have something to do in them weekdays, because that's when a lot of people are feeling it, isn't it? You know, they've been used to going to work, and work's not happening, and so Sharon, thank you for that information.
Cheers, Sharon.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything, but can you tell everybody where to find you on Facebook?
Yes.
Because
on Facebook, I am phoenix.blu.retreats. I've also got another page which is just Qigong classes in South Manchester, and you can always email me on phoenix.blu.retreats at outlook.com, and the blue is BLU, not BLUE. So phoenix.blu.retreats at outlook.com. Well, if you just put Phoenix Blue Retreats in Google, it tends to bring up everything.
Yeah.
Oh, and the website is on its way. I should have said the website is.
The more obvious. There was a much easier way of doing this. What I could have said is, would you please post the link to your page on New Beginnings Manchester, please? And then nobody has to go looking for it. Put it on, and then people can find it and they can come and have a look
That's
at
exactly what I'll do. Yeah. That's exactly
what
what I'll
you
do.
And, but yeah, I found it really, genuinely, I found it really interesting. And I will definitely take you up on the offer of coming over. Definitely, I'd love to.
Absolutely.
And, I can feed back. We can let them know how it's gone then. And
well done. That's it. Don't go and have that operation without doing a bit of that. The other thing I do, as I say, I don't finish my last year until summer, but I do craniosacral therapy. So
yes.
I'm allowed to practice, and that can be quite good for getting those old ouchies out of the body. I mean, I actually got beat up when I was about 16 or 17 off quite a big number of people, and until I had a lot of craniosacral therapy, I didn't realize how much of that was still stored in my body. And also, a lot of dental work was the ouch from that had to come out as well. So yeah, come and we can do a bit of that, and we can also move your arm around, and we can also get you moving it yourself, and you know, not pay for the surgeon's next Mercedes, you know.
Well, I tell you what, if I can get out of having it, I'll give anything a go. Believe me, especially at the moment. They're trying to get me to go in and telling me I had to be screened for COVID when I got there. I was never going to do them any favours. So
that's it. I mean, even worse and more potentially damning and damaging is it's worse if it's a knee or a hip. You want to, again, even more so, you want to avoid that if you can. But I do recognise that not everyone can, and sometimes it is appropriate. But it's you want to try and get back right. You want to try and get around it, see what else can be done.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Well, I will. Lots of lovely comments coming up, which I'm sure you'll see when you watch it back.
Brilliant.
I will be in touch, and we'll sort that out definitely. So can I thank you from me, and there's lots of thank yous coming up. And obviously now people have got an understanding of what you do and seen how approachable and open you are about how it works and everything. I'm sure people will definitely be in touch. I would be very surprised if you don't get a few people in touch.
That would be wonderful. I'm just anytime if we do any workshops and they're cancelled because of you know what, we just refund them or move them. So we are dealing with that, but things will smooth out. I'm confident of that. And you know, everyone take care of yourselves. And Fee, I must say, it's great that you're doing this page and these interviews. You know, it's wonderful from my perspective. But I think that's the best use of social media. And I mean,
we've not had anybody on for a while, I'll be honest with you. And I said a while back, I said, you know what, we need to start getting people back on because everybody's interested when people do come on. So it's helping everybody, isn't it? So
thanks very much for asking me. And I just it gives me. I'd much rather be asked than try and talk into a camera or try and write something that's been, you know, I prefer that way. It's just natural, you know. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, I'm just going to whip you off camera a minute now while I say try to this lot.
All right then, bye everyone.
Well, I will. Hang on. There we go. Well, what a lovely fella. I know you all found it interesting because you've all been quiet while he was talking. So we haven't got comparing notes on this, that, and the other. So, well, you heard where he is, and as I say, he will be putting his details on. So look out for that if you're interested. If you're local, if you're not local, it may very well be that Chris can put you in touch with somebody in your own area as well. So obviously he's got links to his teachers who I'm sure can provide that information. So so next Friday we will have something on. Just don't know what yet. I'm gonna wing it. I'm gonna do it week by week and see what's what. So I will say good night. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all soon. Night night.